So we've just transitioned from our macronutrients, which are those nutrients that we need in large amounts and provide energy to our body, including carbs and protein and fat. And now we are transitioning over to chapter 7 and 8, which are the vitamins and minerals, or micronutrients. When we look at vitamins and minerals, they're classified in a few different categories. We have fat and water-soluble vitamins and major and trace minerals. Now, in the minerals chapter, we'll also talk about water, which, as we've talked about before, is a macronutrient, but a little bit different than the other macronutrients because it doesn't provide energy. So as you can see here, this is a little bit old slide. I used my pyramid slide because I couldn't find a good enough one with Choose My Plate. But as you can see here, when we look at the different food groups, different types of foods contain different types of vitamins. So here, all of the vitamins that you might not recognize are B vitamins. There are 8 B vitamins, including niacin, thiamine, riboflavin, pantothenic acid, biotin, B6, folate, and B12. Those are all water-soluble vitamins. Then we have vitamin C, which is water-soluble. You can see that both of those are pretty widespread in the diet. And then we have A, D, E, and K, which are our fat-soluble vitamins. So you can see these different vitamins are pretty widespread in foods. And these are the minerals and where they are in food. So we have our major minerals, which are the types that make up the structure and also are dissolved in our blood in terms of fluid balance and electrolyte balance in our bodies. And those include calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, as well as chloride, sodium, and potassium. So those are our major minerals. Sulfur is also considered a major mineral. That means that they either are in the body at more than 0.1% of body weight, or we need more than 100 milligrams a day. The rest that you see on here, such as iron, zinc, magnesium, chromium, iodine, fluoride, manganese, copper, selenium, molybdenum, all of those are going to be our trace minerals, which doesn't mean they're not important. We just need smaller amounts of them, and most of them function in terms of antioxidant function and blood health. So if we look at digestion and absorption of vitamins, you can see that a little bit more simple than the carb, protein, and fat process we went through with digestion and all the enzymes and everything. So you can see that all vitamins, the digestive process in the stomach begins to release them from food. Then some digestive enzymes produced by the pancreas will help release vitamins from food. Now, most of these enzymes are the enzymes that are, releasing proteins, releasing carbs, releasing fat as well. And the vitamins just, get unraveled as we release the different macronutrients from those things. Fat-soluble vitamins are absorbed with fat, and they're going to be incorporated into the chylomicron and distributed through the lymph. Whereas water-soluble vitamins are absorbed in the small intestine and released directly into the blood. Small amounts of vitamin K are made in the ileum, which is the lowest part of the small intestine. Remember, it goes duodenum and jejunum and then ileum. And that vitamin K that's made there can be absorbed as well. We also, another vitamin that's not mentioned here that we can make our own of is vitamin D, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the fat-soluble vitamin chapter. But vitamin D, of course, when the sun hits our skin, we can convert the cholesterol in our skin to vitamin D through a series of steps in the liver and in the kidneys. So one function of vitamins and minerals is energy metabolism. So if we look at energy metabolism, this is just showing where all of those B vitamins can be functioning in energy metabolism. So you can see here that B vitamins can be involved in the breaking down of protein or glucose or triglycerides and the creation of ATP, or they can be used to assemble some fatty acids or triglycerides or amino acids or polypeptides or glucose and then glycogen in terms of reassembly. So we have some catabolism and anabolism taking place, and all of these B vitamins act as coenzymes in those processes. This is just showing those B vitamins in a little bit different way. And so those of you who've taken a biology class might notice that some of these coenzymes seem sort of familiar. Those of you who haven't, it's okay. We'll be talking about this in a very basic way in Nutrition 101, but just to sort of put together some of the things that you've been learning in a biology class, you can see the CoA of acetyl-CoA is pantothenic acid. You can see the N in NAD or NADP is niacin. The F in FAD or FMN is riboflavin. So you can see where all of these different nutrients are really important in the creation of those enzymes that are going to cause us to be able to metabolize the carbs, protein, and fat that we consume. We also have a number of different nutrients that affect metabolism in terms of affecting the thyroid. So you can see that there are certain nutrients that contribute to proper thyroid function, certain nutrients that inhibit the proper thyroid function, or if we can't absorb them, they might do that. There are certain factors that might increase the conversion of T4 to T3, which is going to help us increase metabolism. There are certain factors that help us improve cellular sensitivity to thyroid hormone. And then there's certain factors that increase the conversion of T4 to RT3. So you can see here that there are a number of things that are going to cause us to either increase or decrease metabolism here. And when we look at the factors that affect thyroid function, that's going to affect how fast our metabolism is. So when we talk about energy metabolism, it's the conversion of carbs, protein, and fat to energy. And when we talk about the speed of our metabolism, it's really thyroid hormones, as well as other hormones and other factors that are either increasing or decreasing how fast that metabolism is. Another function of our vitamins and minerals is antioxidants. So I like to tell a little story about our body. So in homeostasis, our body is pretty neutral. So we have a pretty equal amount of positive and negative charges. In walks a free radical, right? So we can pretend our body is a club on couples night. Everybody has a partner. So if that free radical comes into the body, and remember, free radicals are a result of pollution, just a result of aging, a result of breathing air, right? Those free radicals are more attractive than your current partner. So if a free radical walks into the room or gets into the body somehow, chances are chaos will occur because perhaps your current electron will be more attracted to the free radical than their current proton. So if we look at this, we can see that vitamins and minerals are going to function in a little bit different ways. So if you thought of that homeostasis as, say, a club on couples night, you could say that vitamins are sort of the singles sitting at the bar strategically at the beginning of the club. They're just ready to join up with that free radical. So they have an electron to donate. Minerals, on the other hand, work in groups or enzyme systems. They're going to break down that free radical and say, hey, you're not allowed in here on couples night. So a little bit different function there. Now, vitamin E is a little bit sketchy, so you can almost think of vitamin E as like the person who left his or her proton in the bathroom and then hooked up with the free radical. So the way that you could say this scientifically is that vitamin E is fat soluble, so it can get into the membrane and neutralize free radicals, so it can donate electrons there. However, vitamin E didn't really have an electron to donate, all right? So what ends up happening is vitamin C sort of has to clean up the mess that vitamin E made. So the antioxidant function of vitamin E can be restored by vitamin C. Vitamin C truly does have an electron to donate, so it can be helpful in that way. Another function of our vitamins and minerals is bone health. So if we look at bone health, we can see that just in general, through the lifespan, our bone mass increases around age 30 or so. There are some gender differences there. Men achieve higher bone mass than women do. During puberty, hormones change, so bone mass increases a little bit more. But when we look at the different nutrients involved in bone mass, we can see that the calcium, the phosphorus, the magnesium are super important for making up the bone, as well as a little bit of protein. And then vitamin D acts as a hormone to maintain bone health as well. So vitamin D, as I mentioned, can be formed with exposure to the sun, or it can be consumed by eating things like salmon or supplements or eggs. And vitamin D has this function of regulating calcium levels. It also has a function of regulating the immune system, regulating cell growth, and a lot more is being discovered with vitamin D in terms of its function with cancer, cataracts, MS, and autoimmune disease prevention. But typically, as we look at bone health, as we age, vitamin D status as well as calcium status is quite important because until age 30 or so, we have these two cells in our body called osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Osteoblasts build bone, they're estrogen dependent, and osteoclasts carry bone away, they resorb bone. Osteoblasts, since they're estrogen dependent, really deactivate during menopause, whereas osteoclasts just keep on working. So we have this inevitable bone density decrease as we age. So we want to maximize our bone health as young as possible. So that's why vitamin D and calcium are so important for overall health. And you can see that, this is an osteoporotic spine here. When weakened by the osteoporosis, the front edge of the vertebrae collapses more than the back edge, so the spine bends forward a bit. And so we really want to avoid those weakening of bones as we age. And as we saw, in the last slide over here, it's inevitable that bone mass will decrease. So if we can really optimize our calcium and our vitamin D status over here and optimize that osteoblast activity as we're younger, then we can really decrease the chances of osteoporosis as we get older. And as you can see here, there are a number of factors that affect the risk of osteoporosis. So you can see that gender, females are at much higher risk than males. Age, bone loss is going to be a normal part of aging, and risk increases with age. Race, African Americans have denser bones than Caucasians and Southeast Asians do. Family history, body size, you're actually at less risk of osteoporosis if you're heavier, because Wolff's law of physics says any action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the heavier you are, the more weight bearing you have on your bones. You can also mimic that weight bearing with exercise. You can do some walking, jogging, weightlifting, and that will really enhance your the bearing of weight on your body. So even if you have a small body size, that can really counteract the effects of osteoporosis. Of course, alcohol abuse, we've talked about that throughout the semester. That's going to interfere with the body's ability to absorb calcium, and diet as well. So diet that's lacking in calcium and vitamin D can really play a role in the development of osteoporosis. So when we look at our osteoporosis risks, you can think of there are certain things that we can control and certain things that we can't control. And so we want to optimize our chances of not getting osteoporosis by making sure that we have proper exercise, diet, and lifestyle choices, because we can't really, control the gender, age, and race stuff. So that's a little intro to vitamin and minerals in terms of 3 of their functions: energy metabolism, as well as osteoporosis and bone health, as well as antioxidant function. And so next time we're going to talk a little bit about an intro to blood health and a little bit of an intro to electrolyte balance.